It was a quiet evening on March 7th, 2014, as passengers began boarding Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The plane, a Boeing 777-200ER, was set to depart at 12:41 a.m. local time, bound for Beijing, China. Among the 239 people on board were families, students, business professionals, and tourists. For many, this was just another routine flight, but for some, it was a journey to reunite with loved ones. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53, was the experienced pilot in command. A senior officer with over 18,000 flight hours, Zahari was highly respected among his peers. His co-pilot, 27-year-old Farik Abdul Hamid, was younger and less experienced but had a promising career ahead of him. The mood in the cockpit was calm and professional as they prepared for takeoff. At 12:41 a.m., MH370 lifted off into the night sky, leaving behind the bustling city of Kuala Lumpur. As the plane ascended to cruising altitude, the passengers settled in for the 6-hour flight to Beijing. In the cabin, the mood was relaxed. Some passengers watched movies, while others tried to sleep. The crew went about their tasks, attending to the passengers and ensuring a smooth journey. As the plane crossed the Malaysian peninsula, there was no indication of the looming tragedy. The skies were clear, the flight path routine, and everything seemed perfectly normal. At 1:19 a.m., as the plane approached the boundary between Malaysian and Vietnamese airspace over the South China Sea, Captain Zahari made his final communication with air traffic control. "Good night, Malaysian 370, he said in a calm, professional voice. It was a standard sign-off as the plane was about to be handed over to Vietnamese controllers. Moments later, the plane's transponder, a device that allows the aircraft to be tracked by radar, was switched off. This action, whether deliberate or accidental, rendered the plane invisible to civilian radar. Malaysian air traffic controllers expected to hear from their Vietnamese counterparts once the plane entered their airspace, but no communication ever came. Flight MH370 had disappeared. Initially, no one thought much of it. Sometimes, planes experience minor technical issues or communication delays. But as the minutes turned into hours with no word from MH370, concern turned to alarm. When it became clear that the plane had vanished from radar and was not responding to calls, a full-scale search and rescue mission was launched. As dawn broke on March 8th, authorities in Malaysia, Vietnam, and China scrambled to locate the missing plane. The initial search focused on the South China Sea, the last known location of the flight, before it disappeared from civilian radar. Ships and aircraft from multiple countries were dispatched to comb the waters for any sign of wreckage, but the vast expanse of ocean yielded nothing. In the days that followed, new information came to light that dramatically altered the search. It was revealed that military radar had tracked the plane long after it had disappeared from civilian radar. Instead of continuing its planned route to Beijing, the plane had made a sharp turn to the west, flying back over the Malaysian peninsula. From there, it continued across the Andaman Sea and into the remote southern Indian Ocean. This revelation shocked the world. How could a plane veer so dramatically off course without anyone knowing? And why had no distress signal or communication been made? These questions puzzled investigators and the public alike. The search zone was shifted to the Indian Ocean, a desolate and vast body of water that posed extreme challenges for search teams. Satellite data indicated that the plane had flown for several hours after its last contact, eventually running out of fuel somewhere over the southern Indian Ocean. As days turned into weeks with no trace of the plane, speculation ran wild. How could a modern aircraft, equipped with advanced technology, simply vanish? Investigators, aviation experts, and the public began to explore various theories. Pilot involvement. One of the most controversial theories centered around Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. Some speculated that he had deliberately flown the plane off course in a suicide mission, possibly due to personal issues or political motivations. Investigators scrutinized his personal life, including his home flight simulator, where they found routes similar to the one MH370 had taken. However, there was no concrete evidence to support the theory that Zahari had intentionally crashed the plane, and his family vehemently denied any such possibility. Hijacking. Another theory suggested that MH370 had been hijacked, perhaps by terrorists or rogue actors. But if the plane had been hijacked, why had there been no ransom demands or statements from any group claiming responsibility? And why had the plane flown so far off course into one of the most remote regions on Earth? Mechanical failure. Some experts believe that a catastrophic mechanical failure could have caused the disappearance. A sudden depressurization, fire, or electrical failure could have incapacitated the crew and passengers, leaving the plane on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. But this theory didn't explain the plane's sharp turn and change in flight path. Military intervention. A more far-fetched theory proposed that the plane had been shot down by a military force, perhaps accidentally, and that governments were covering up the truth. However, there was no solid evidence to support this claim. The lack of clear answers only deepened the mystery. The families of the passengers and crew were left in a state of anguish, desperate for any news of their loved ones. The world watched as search efforts intensified, hoping for a breakthrough. As the weeks turned into months, the search for MH370 became the largest and most expensive search in aviation history. More than 26 countries were involved in the search, which covered an area of over 120,000 square kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean. Ships equipped with sonar technology scoured the ocean floor, while aircraft flew over vast stretches of water, searching for debris. The remoteness of the search area made the operation extremely difficult. The southern Indian Ocean is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, with rough seas, high winds, and depths that can reach over 4,000 meters. Despite the massive resources dedicated to the search, there was still no sign of the plane. The families of the passengers grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress. In Beijing, where many of the passengers were from, family members held vigils and protests, demanding answers from the Malaysian government and Malaysia Airlines. They were haunted by the uncertainty, clinging to the hope that their loved ones might still be alive somewhere. After more than a year of searching with no success, hope began to fade. But in July 2015, a major breakthrough occurred. A piece of debris washed ashore on Réunion Island, a remote French territory in the Indian Ocean. The debris, known as a flaperon, was confirmed to be from a Boeing 777, the same model as MH370. This was the first concrete evidence that the plane had crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. The discovery reignited the investigation, and more pieces of debris were found in the following months on beaches in Madagascar, Mozambique, and Tanzania. However, these fragments provided no clear answers as to what had happened to the plane. Despite the discovery of debris, the main wreckage of the plane and the flight's black box recorders remain missing. Without these critical pieces of evidence, it was impossible to determine the exact cause of the crash. In 2017, after more than 3 years of searching, the official investigation into the disappearance of MH370 was suspended. The search had cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and despite the efforts of multiple countries and organizations, the main wreckage of the plane was never found. The final report, released in 2018, concluded that the plane's disappearance was likely due to unlawful interference, but no definitive cause was determined. The families of the victims were devastated by the lack of answers. Many felt that the investigation had been mishandled and that more could have been done to find the plane. Some continued to push for new searches, but as time went on, the prospects of finding MH370 grew increasingly slim. 10 years later, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 remains one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. Theories about what happened continue to circulate, But without new evidence, the truth remains elusive. For the families of the 239 people on board, the pain of not knowing what happened to their loved ones still lingers. Every piece of debris that washes ashore reignites hope, but the mystery remains unsolved. The disappearance of MH370 has captured the world's imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, and even conspiracy theories. It is a haunting reminder of how, even in the age of advanced technology, a plane can vanish without a trace in the vastness of the oceans.